Georgia and Florida Republicans, interesting. Republicans are proposing hard-hitting bills to crack down on squatters terrorizing Atlanta. And in Florida, they already signed it into law. They're going ham on squatters not having the legal right to do what they're doing throughout much of the United States right now. Leading the way. Let's get into it. Here we go. Let's watch this.
Metro Atlanta homes taken over by people who have no legal claim to them. It is a story we have been telling you about for months. Atlanta News First Adam Murphy live tonight in Smyrna. Adam, alleged squatters, they are now being spotted just north of the city.
Sean, neighbors tell me that a squatter moved into this vacant rental home here over the weekend, and they went on to say this is not the first time that this has happened here at this home. Now, one state lawmaker is trying to do something about it. It happens over and over and over. Squatters strike again, this time on Westwood Road in Smyrna.
We're just on high alert that every time you see a car in the driveway, we're calling the rental company because we want to make sure that someone's not trying to start squatting.
Neighbors said a squatter unexpectedly moved into this vacant rental home and changed the locks. Police were notified.
The cops did come, but they had their fake lease. And so then another day or two, then the rental company security team came out, and then they went in, I guess, got the people out, and then they were arrested by Cobb County.
According to the booking report with the Cobb County Sheriff's Office, 38-year-old Ashley Tate was arrested and charged with criminal trespass and remaining on the premises.
And this is a real problem for Georgia, and we got a good solution for it.
State Representative Devin Seabaugh introduced House Bill 1017, which attempts to give the property owners more power than the squatters. Here's how it works.
The homeowner will file a writ of possession. It'll go to the magistrate court. The officer will go out, charge these people with criminal trespassing. If they present a lease, then that will go to the magistrate court. Magistrate court has 7 days to determine if that's a good lease or not.
If the squatters present a bogus lease, they could be charged with a felony if the new bill becomes law.
These are criminal.
Good. Felony. Give them some jail time. They can squat in jail.
They know exactly what they're doing, and we've got a solution for them. We'll find them a place to stay, and that might be the county jail.
I think that's great because to me, it saves a lot of money for those who might not have it to be trying to get people out of their home.
It's a nice looking home.
And I'm told that House Bill 1017 has bipartisan support, not a political issue here at all. It's about property rights, and it will head to the Senate and potentially after that, the governor's desk and become law. We're live tonight in Smyrna. Adam Murphy, Atlanta News First.
Can you imagine that happening in Seattle? Going to go after the squatters? No. Imagine that happening in Portland? No. It's not happening. We're too far to the left with the whole, tenants' rights thing. It's just nutty. Georgia Republicans propose hard-hitting bill to crack down on squatters. No more free rides. Republican lawmakers in Georgia are taking aim at the ongoing squatting problem in Atlanta, proposing the bill that would make it a criminal offense. Good. According to the National Rental Home Council Trade Group, 1,200 homes have been taken over by squatters in the city. What's up with Atlanta? How did Atlanta fall apart so hard? I mean, I feel like I read story after story after story, and you're like, what? It's kind of like, that it's been happening over time, but it seems like some cities like Denver has had a very hard slide, right? Just all of a sudden, you're just reading crazy story after crazy story. Like 1,200 homes have been taken over by squatters. It's a lot of squatting, right? With law enforcement bound by tenant right laws, homeowners are left with limited options to reclaim their property, but the new law could make it easier. The proposed bill, named the Georgia Squatters Reform Act, expands criminal trespassing to include persons who enter property without the consent of the owner for any period of time. None of the sticking around with the lease thing. None of that. Just you're out. We're going to throw you in jail. Georgia. The new law means that anyone caught squatting in a home without consent or legal authority will be arrested and charged with a misdemeanor and hit with a fine. So the problem I see there is that, and maybe it's taken account for in the legislation, is most of the cases I see where somebody is squatting, they've had a lease and these are kind of longer term cases. They've had a lease, but now, they've been living in the property, not paying for months and months and months, if not years. So at one time they were legally a tenant, but we're talking about people that literally break in, have no lease. But the issue is they put together these fake leases and they get utilities, one set of utilities put in their name, whatever it might be. And maybe they make a payment or two. Maybe they make no payments, but hey, they can show proof that they were paying some utilities on this property, and they can show what they came up with as a lease. And the cops in locations like Seattle here, they're gonna push it to the court system and say, hey, this is a landlord tenant issue. And what Georgia is saying, no, we're not putting up with that squatting nonsense. Here's the deal. This is what we're doing. They're basically short tracking the citizens of Georgia to be able to take some real, forward moving action on getting their house back, which they should have never had, taken over in the first place. But, stuff happens. And I think people are more and more aware now that the whole squatting thing is a real epidemic. I mean, you've just got it left and right. And whether it is actual squatting, people breaking into a house and just hanging out, we're having a party. Those squatters, the ones down in Beverly Hills, they finally got ejected. I think that happened late last week sometime, something like that. Hard to keep all the stories straight, right? That was the one where they were having parties. They were charging people at the door. They had all kinds of stuff going on. It was a big, huge house, $4 million plus house, probably a $10 million home. But so Representative Devon Seabow, a Republican co-sponsoring the bill, told Fox News Digital on Monday, we have to do something about this. We're dealing with criminals. See, that's how Georgia is approaching it, criminals. Whereas my state of Washington would go, underfunded tenants. They're just underfunded tenants. No, they're not. They're criminals, and we all know it. But, this whole property rights and people who own real estate are evil. Yeah, that whole thing. These are people that know exactly what they're doing, and they're stealing other people's most valuable capital, which is their home, and they're taking possession. I've had so many comments of, well, why don't you just sell the home? Sell the home. It's an investment. Maybe you don't want to sell the home. And I'm talking about if you have tenants in it, just sell the home. Well, that's one solution. But no, how about you're able to do what you want with the property, which is move the deadbeats out, move new tenants in, take your tax break, take your appreciation, whatever it is that you're looking for from that property. Maybe you move into it. Maybe you live in it. Maybe you hand it down to your kids. But the solution shouldn't be, let's just sell the house. It is a solution. But if you had tenants in there that haven't been paying for a long time, it's not a very good one because it doesn't make any sense. Because that means the laws are twisted, in a way that protects the squatters more than the landlord. And that's what we're seeing a lot of. And that's why we're seeing states like Florida and Georgia do a little pushback. I've heard from a lot of people, this has caused them to file bankruptcy. They're mentally harmed by it. It's a tough situation. We have to do something. I don't know how it took us this long to get here, but no more free rides. All right. So that's the way Georgia's handling it. Let's see what Ron DeSantis signs law to crack down on squatters and empower the police. Man, I do enjoy watching the stuff coming out of Florida from the standpoint of what Ron DeSantis is doing just on a state level. Because, here in Washington state, we're just giving out professional licenses to illegals before they have citizenship, which is ridiculous stuff like that. You're just like, what are you doing? And then you look across the country and you see Ron DeSantis and you're like, why can't we get some more of his action? Why can't my governor? Well, it's a whole nother thing, right? You get red versus blue. That's where I sit. Sitting in the wrong end of things here. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis formally signed legislation into law Wednesday to ratchet up penalties against squatters and empower law enforcement to go after them. The new law, which is set to go into effect on July 1st, seeks to ensure property owners are no longer forced into lengthy and expensive court proceedings to remove squatters. That's the huge hurdle to overcome, is that these things get tied up in court. Like I'm going to talk about in just a second here, we're going to talk about this one The Bellevue eviction case escalates to Superior Court amid restraining order dispute. They get tied up in the court system, and you got to have an attorney, and these deadbeat tenants know that they can go to some, non-governmental organization and get bailed out. And we'll literally talk about that in a second. The new law in Florida, which is set to go into effect on July 1st, seeks to ensure property owners are no longer forced into lengthy care. We already talked about that. We are putting an end to the squatter scam in Florida. All right. I'm down with that. Squatter scam. Done. Be done with you. DeSantis proclaimed in a statement. While other states are siding with the squatters, yeah, that'll be Washington State for sure. We are protecting property owners and punishing criminals looking to game the system. Cairo News just did a kind of a multi-part series, and I'm going to address it. And it's on We Heart Seattle, the entity that picks up garbage out of parks in Seattle. Yeah, that one. They help people get into treatment. They help people get off the streets, and they voluntarily, for free, pick up literally over millions of pounds of garbage. Now, we've got a local news outlet, Cairo. It's doing kind of a 3-part series on how We Heart Seattle may or may not be, picking up some garbage that might be somebody's belongings, tent that's been out there for weeks and weeks and weeks at somebody's home. You've just got the way that these states have set themselves up. And Washington is so pro-squatter, pro-deadbeat tenant, pro anybody other than the people who actually own the real estate. It's maddening. But it's also, the way we got here is because there's not enough people who appreciate, reasonable. And so you get a bunch of nut jobs that bring these folks in and vote for them. And, this will be great. Giving out a professional license, bail bondsman. Yeah, you betcha. You're not a U.S. citizen. You don't really have a court date. Yeah, it's okay. There you go. Become a bail bondsman. It's all good. That's literally one of the things Washington State has taken the process, and it's been signed into law by our governor. So House Bill 621 cleared the state legislature with overwhelming support. It's Florida. This is not surprising, and works to shorten the process for clearing squatters. Good. Because squatter, different from deadbeat tenant, right? I mean, deadbeat tenant had a lease at one point in time. Sometimes at the end of the day, when they don't even pay that first month's rent, they get their damage in and, all that good stuff. And then they just default. They're not much better than a squatter, but at least they didn't break in and go through that whole deal. I mean, so maddening. Under the new policy, homeowners can simply follow a complaint to local law enforcement, which can then immediately remove them if the individual is unlawfully on the property. The individual is told but refused to leave, and that individual is not tangled up in a tenant dispute. And I've podcasted on, we've got the squatter squad, we got squatter hunters, we've got all kinds of stuff going on that is pushback on just the ridiculousness of basically possession of real estate. Because the squatters know that they can force it. In other words, if law enforcement shows up and squatters can't produce the paperwork to prove they legitimately live there, officials can remove them quickly. Good. That's the way it should be. Unlike in my state here, let's take a little peeky peek at this. All right. So this is the House. Bellevue eviction case escalates to Superior Court amid restraining order dispute. This is the one that I went down and we did the stop squatting. Coverage, Jonathan Cho. There's been all kinds of coverage on that. That story went international. You got a whole bunch of shorts out there that have millions of views. It's wild. And this story specifically has been repeatedly in the national media as far as, hey, this is how ridiculous things are going. So let's give you a quick update on how this is Sang Kim. This is Woodridge. This is Bellevue, just a couple of miles from me. The fight between a property owner and a tenant had started eviction proceedings against is heating up in court. The tenants, Sang and Yugan Kim, received a temporary restraining order against their landlord, Jaskaran Saro, if I pronounce that. He goes by Jimmy. I call him Jimmy, But the hearing to extend that order was canceled Thursday. I was going to go to that hearing. I had been told that, hey, this is an opportunity to support Jimmy, a landlord that has just been put through the ringer. These tenants are just deadbeat tenants. Let's go support him. And then I got a text message, I think very shortly last Thursday saying, hey, not sure what's going on, but it's been, the hearing's been kicked up to the Superior Court, been pushed from King County District Court to Superior Court. The change is happening because the eviction case against Kim is already in Superior Court. There's a hearing on the eviction lawsuit on April 5th, just 4 days before a new hearing set on the restraining order. Stephen Freeborn, the attorney for the property owner, told Como that the restraining order is frivolous. This is what I mean, but get tied up in it. Kim, the tenant, told Como News that his family needs the protection, because his daughter has been bullied at the bus stop. Your dad's not paying. Dad's a deadbeat. Is that really bullying? I mean, why didn't your dad pay? My dad pays. What could kids literally? You're bad. Your dad doesn't pay. And because people have protested outside the house he's renting. Guilty. Yeah, because you need to support landlords that are on the right side of the law, and you've got these tenants that just work the system. And this is a nationally known one. That protest on March 23rd, and I was there for, included the property owner's family, friends, neighbors, and even the chair of the King County Republican Party. That was true. Housing Justice Project. This is the non-governmental organization, right? Housing Justice Project. They're the ones that bail out people, and they've been peacefully protesting. Burning up cities. They bail them out of jail when they get stuck in jail. They bail out, all kinds of just losers in the name of, inclusivity, whatever, or justice. Housing Justice Projects has paid everything, but only after my client has spent thousands of dollars filing 3 different lawsuits. To date, I believe Housing Justice Project has paid $81,000 of rent for these deadbeat tenants that collectively make $400,000 a year between the husband and the wife. Now, the husband claims he hasn't been working, but the wife still makes $200K a year, and they can't make a $4,000 rent payment. What are they doing? Right? I need to get some training because, my job since the pandemic has just been wonky. Well, you got to move out. You let somebody else who can pay move in. But instead, they're totally working the system. This is not this guy's first rodeo, right? He's done this to another landlord as well. So that group stepped in last year, paying more than $37,000 for rent due by Kim. Oof, yeah. Here's me right there. Yep. I know you care. Now, I've done videos on that, and we've talked about a bunch. So then after the first $37K was paid, there was an agreement, 90 days. Family didn't leave, another eviction lawsuit. And just this week, Freeborn, the attorney for Jimmy, told Como the Housing Justice Project mailed another check for $44,000, $81,000 to cover the last month's 10 months of unpaid rent. And the guy's still in there. Basically, in my opinion, after my client went public, Freeborn referring to the media coverage of the protesters held outside the Bellevue home where the family left. So we've got all that going on. And there's one theory is that the reason that it got kicked up to King County Superior Court is because they're trying to lessen the ability of people to support Jimmy and support what he's got going on. And they don't want people showing up. They're trying to cut down some of the court hearings and whatnot to basically make it an out of sight, out of mind thing. There's been so much publicity on this case because I don't think Jimmy has done anything wrong. The landlord has done anything wrong. He's literally shown up and he's asked for his rent money, which he's due. And if his kids get bullied at the bus stop, I'm sorry. You know what? If your dad wasn't such a lousy deadbeat, allegedly, then you wouldn't be getting bullied. So, maybe talk to dad at home about that and convince him to pay, and you won't get bullied at school or at the bus stop. I'm sure, $10,000 therapy down the road will help that little kid out, right? So the guy hasn't worked since 2022 and went into the house, into the job. Apparently he and his wife were making over $400K a year, and then he lost his job. I don't know what the story is behind that, but what's he done? He's claiming that the publicity that we put on this case is making it difficult for him to get employment. Oh, yeah, that's what happens when you're a big loser and a big deadbeat, right? That's what happens. You know, all these people come and stand in front of your house and go, deadbeat, dirty sang Kim, right? That's what the sign said. Como News directly asked Kim about his job loss and future employment. He said that he was an independent contractor during the pandemic and accused the pandemic was a long time ago, folks. Yeah, we're in 2024. So that thing just keeps on going. The hearing regarding Kim's request for an order of protection from the landlord is April 9th. I bet you this thing gets wrapped up pretty soon because these tenants, they're getting hammered on. These squatters, these deadbeat tenants. Yeah, it's not pretty. I mean, you pull out of their driveway and there's a little median area. Signs are up there. Multiple protests. You know, I see in the comments, you guys making the comments, oh, is this Sang Kim? Everybody knows him, firsthand. So he's looking to maybe move elsewhere outside of Bellevue because he doesn't feel like he can get a fair shake in the whole landlord tenant game. Can you imagine? What's your name? Sang Kim. Oh, yep. Nope. You might want to go to, another city, another state, another country. Because no, we're not renting to you. So this guy's host. It's crazy. All right, let's catch up with Venezuelan migrant who encouraged squatting in U.S. homes. He's under arrest, housed in jail. Remember this guy? This is the guy that was yelling at the camera, and then he was screaming at the camera with his kid. Snot coming down his nose. He's just looking for views. And just terrible. Just a terrible look. He came on TikTok telling everybody how to squat. We'll do a quick run through on the story. Venezuelan migrant who recently went viral for posting a TikTok video instructing other migrants to invade U.S. homes and become squatters has been detained pending further immigration proceedings. He was supposed to show up on April 23rd, 2022. He missed that hearing. Yeah, just no show. No show. Just couldn't be bothered. His wife was having a baby. Don't know. I can't remember. Don't know what the circumstances were, but of all of these, court hearings that the illegals have, how many cases are they actually going to show up for? I mean, are they even close to the right location? The right federal court where that's going to happen, or immigration court where that's going to happen? They're getting moved all around the country. So how's that going to work out? Yeah. Percentage of people actually showing up to their immigration hearings has got to be super small. Border Patrol placed Moreno in ICE's alternative to detention program, which uses technology. And that's why it just doesn't work all that great. And case management to ensure compliance. But he didn't show up. He had a TikTok account. It's been suspended. Now he got arrested. And even in this story, in Washington State, a judge sided with the squatter by granting him a restraining order against the owner of a $2 million home. That's Jimmy. Residents in the neighborhood have staged multiple protests in favor of the homeowner. So all of these stories are, in line with one another, and it's pushback on the squatters. It's pushback on the deadbeat tenants because we've just, especially coming out of the whole pandemic, where we had that eviction moratoriums, put all the pressure on the landlords. This is the pushback now. The people have finally started to take matters into their own hands. And in California, you've literally got the squatter squad. You got squatter hunters. I think squatter hunters is are they from somewhere else? I can't remember. But you've got all this pushback on people that are they're deadbeats. They're either out and out criminals breaking in and squatting in somebody's house, or they're working the legal system. And in so many of these cities where you've got liberal judges and, nobody's going to really hammer on somebody who's down and out and lost their job. You're telling me that you're going to pay $81,000 when somebody in the family is making $200K a year? I mean, you're literally telling me that's the case. That's literally what I'm reading, what I'm parroting back to you. Do those numbers make a lot of sense? Doesn't to me either. It's just like, what are you doing? No, hard pushback. That makes no sense. You can't afford the home, get the F out. That's the bottom line, right? That's the bottom line. Just get out. Don't care. Out you go. Credit ruined, out you go. No money, out you go. You got to figure it out because you created the scenario by not paying. If you would have been a paying tenant, wildly different story. That's it for me on this segment. Thank you so much for being here. Love to have you as a subscriber if you haven't already. Hit the like button if you're enjoying this content. Hit the notification bell. We're dropping 2 videos Monday through Friday, 1 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday. If you need even more content than that, check out reasonabletv.com. That's our private channel. A couple extra videos there a week. Some interesting content. Thanks again for being here. We'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.